This portion of the Ray Lucia Show is brought to you by Madeiras Futuro and is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to sell securities nor give legal, tax, or investment advice. There are many risks associated with investment in agricultural products, including the loss of principal. Private placements in agricultural products are available only to accredited or qualified investors. Madeiras Futuro is not endorsed by this network, the local stations, or the talk show hosts.
Hey, welcome back to the Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. If you have questions for him, you can go ahead and look him up at raylucia.com. Send in your email questions right now. We are joined by Craig Colley, head of Strategic and Corporate Planning and Advisory Board Chairman for Precious Timber. How you doing today, Craig?
I'm doing great, John. Good to talk to you.
Well, I sure appreciate you coming by. Let's talk a little bit about Precious Timber and about kind of the advent of the company, because you guys kind of have a story that goes along with your company, don't you?
Yeah, and what I'd like to start with, first I want to say that I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not giving out investment advice.
Sure.
And we have been using Precious Timber as a kind of a new brand for the company, and that would be the website to go to as well. Mm-hmm. What I'd like to do today is share a little bit from a client's perspective, because prior to becoming the advisory chair of the board and the head of strategic planning, I was a client first and have been invested in Central America and opportunities similar to this for over 15 years. And what's different about this company is that I know the principal owners, Alex Wilson and Ken Ross, and been doing business with them for over 20 years, and there's a lot of trust that's been built up there and a lot of history, and just watching how these guys operate. And when they asked me to get involved with this thing not too long ago, I was already invested with real estate down there for quite a while, so I knew these gentlemen very well, and I was very comfortable with it. Well, and I know that's one of the hurdles that a lot of our potential clients are looking at when they're looking at an investment opportunity, as this one in timber and coconuts in Central America, and particularly in that region.
And you know the real estate market. You already have some experience in the real estate market, which might be, a concern for anybody going in there. But you already had a track record doing that. So kind of tell us a little bit about why Central America, since we're on the topic of real estate. Why Central America seems to be a great place for this type of agricultural investment.
Well, you've got the perfect setup for it, as far as for the type of sun, the amount of sunshine that you have there, volcanic soil, ample rainfall, and it's a perfect environment to grow what grows naturally there, which are the timbers, which we specialize in, mostly mahoganies, cedars, paulownia, and then coconut growing as well. The region itself is a safe region. A lot of people have that myth about that it's a dangerous place down there, and I always use a comparison of Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Germany. All those places were dangerous at one time, but all those places have changed. Same has Nicaragua. The people in their 50s and older remember the images they saw on TV in the 70s and 80s, and for some reason still think that's going on down there, and that couldn't be the farthest from the truth. I can tell you a couple things recently that I saw down there that I was really astonished by, is that when you go to travel there now, tourism is such a main focus of the country. Sure. There were many, many more Americans down there than there were, say, 5-10 years ago. But in the restaurants and hotels, American currency is accepted. Wow. So you don't even have to change your currency. That's a huge step, and that's also an indicator of where they are with the relationship, not only with our country, but with a world currency.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more specifically. Why timber in particular?
Well, timber has the biological growth of about 6 to 8% a year, and timber grows no matter what the market does, no matter what other real estate opportunities do. It doesn't know the difference, and it doesn't care. Right? It just keeps growing. And outside of some of the questions that are usually asked about the volatility of timber, that's such a small percentage compared to the obvious thing that it just grows. Our foresters know how to manage the forests and the plantations. They're protected. They're overseen on a 24/7 basis. There's tasks that are taken every day to make sure the trees are growing properly, that they're nurtured properly, that they're irrigated properly. And once a tree takes hold after 2 or 3 or 4 years, it's pretty much on its own. The other thing I want to point out is the region that this is in is close to the 19th largest lake in the world. So there's an unbelievable water source there, along with the rainfall. So the timber itself has so much value because it's a product that is needed worldwide and increasing demand every day. And same with the coconut. The coconut is a income vehicle that it produces a nut after about 4 or 5 years and has an income stream to it because as you harvest the nut, sell it at farm grade prices and becomes an excellent vehicle for that as well.
We'll get to the coconut in just a second. I want to kind of stick with the timber because you said something that piqued my interest, and that was that people talk about volatility in timber. But I mean, we're talking about a 40-year growth cycle, right, with some of these trees. And I mean, it would seem to me that with the longer you go out in terms of time, the less likely you are going to be subject to volatility. Am I wrong, or?
That's correct, and it's definitely, you have to be a little patient. It's not a real exciting investment, so to speak, because unless you just want to go and watch your trees grow, or it's like watching grass grow. But the other great thing about the region is that trees grow quicker there based upon the reasons I already stated, as opposed to something that's farther north that has a cooler climate, something in that warmer climate, which average temperature is between 85 and 95 on an average basis, and all of the other particulars with the rainfall and the soil, they grow quicker. So within a 12 to 15 to 18-year period of time, we can be harvesting a tree that is between 14 and 18 inches across and 24 feet wide, which is perfect for harvesting. So you don't have the longer waits that you would have in other regions of the world for the same type of tree. And once again, this is something that is native to that area. So that's also really important to know. If you ever travel to those areas and see the woods that are in the hotels and in the homes, it's all from that area, and it's just gorgeous hardwood.
Well, and this is the other thing is people sometimes think of a commodity play like this as a commodity contract buying selling, but that's not what this is. This is an actual investment into the real estate that produces the particular wood, and it's meant for a long-term period. It's not meant to be traded, right?
That is true. I mean, it's fee simple deeded land with a commodity such as the trees planted on it. You own the land. It's in your name. You have the title on it. A lot of people ask that question, do I own it? And yes, you do. We have an arrangement set up that we plant and maintain it for you if you choose so, and most of our clients, in fact, all of our clients do that. That's our business model. And so from that perspective, you've got something that is going to just be a safer long-term bet, but you can also, if you wanted to, you could sell your land at any time you want. You own it. You can do anything you want with it.
Hey, Craig, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the coconut side of the business. We're joined by Craig Colley, PreciousTimber.com. This is the Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. If you have questions for Ray, you can get them at RayLucia.com. We'll check in with him in an upcoming segment. In the meantime, we will be back to talk coconuts with Craig right after this. I always find the Allman Brothers kind of soothing. Before they were the Allman Brothers, you guys know they were the Almond Joys? No, I'm not making that up. That's not a joke. It's actually before that they were the Almond Joys. I read about that in Steve Martin's biography. Not making that up either. I really did. Anyways, hey, welcome back to the Ray Lucia Show. I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great man himself. He's going to be back with us after this segment, answering your emails. If you have questions for him, you can get them at raylucia.com. That's raylucia.com. Joined by Craig Colley, head of strategic and corporate planning and the advisory board chairman for Precious Timber. Craig, you talked earlier before the break. You were talking about a part of the business that I really find fascinating, and that's the coconut part of it. Let's talk a little bit about coconut, and it's not just the coconut meat. I mean, that's what I would think of. There's a lot more to it than that, right?
Well, the coconut is something that every piece or part of the coconut is used for something. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how we treat cows. We use all the cow when we have a cow that is brought to marketplace. Same thing with the coconut. And it's so nice about that is it has so many benefits that are enjoyable, but it also has a lot of medicinal benefits and vitality benefits to it as well that is being discovered more and more as science looks into it and has done a lot of research, which is true. They call it the tree of life, and the coconut itself, because of those properties, is becoming more in demand. It's actually starting to rival orange juice sales in some regions of the world now. Pepsi-Cola is one of the largest owners of coconuts in the world, and one of the largest producers of the coconut water that's used. And you see it so much in every aspect. And you just walk through your grocery store, and if you check the ingredients of not just the health products or the drink products,
sure,
you'll see coconuts used in all sorts of applications.
Mm-hmm. And I am seeing just this explosion of coconut water everywhere, but I got to tell you, the real thing out of the coconut tastes a lot better than the stuff you buy at the store.
Oh, absolutely. One thing I do want to mention, once again, I'm trying to bring this from a client's perspective.
Sure.
And each month we have what's called a discovery tour down in Nicaragua, where we invite a group of potential investors or clients to come down and tour the plantation, see the country. And part of that is going to the coconut plantations. Part of it you can actually horseback ride in if you choose to. Otherwise, we have shuttle buses to take those that don't want to ride the horses. But right there, when we show the saplings and where we grow the coconuts, we crack open coconuts right there and drink it right out of the nut. And
yeah,
you're right. Nothing's better than that.
Yeah. No, I got back from 6 weeks in Vietnam, and that was one of the kind of the staples. Is on the street is they have all of those coconuts. They poke a hole in them, and they take a machete and make them flat so you can put them down on a surface, but it's really delicious. So tell us more about these trips. I have not heard about these before. I'm kind of fascinated by these discovery tours that you're doing. And where can people find out about them, more importantly? Can they go to precious-timber.com and find out about this?
Yeah.
Or do they have to pick up the phone?
There's a tab on the website for the under the investors resource
mm-hmm.
for Discovery Tours. It's also available on the homepage. And really what it is, it's a 2-day trip and designed to show you the plantations, show you around Managua, which is the capital and the main city of Nicaragua, traveling south into the regions where we have some of the timber plantations. On the first day, you get a feel for the country, the feel for the people. You get a feel for the commerce of the country as well. And we go down to a town called San Juan del Sur, which is a oceanfront property where we stay the Saturday night, have a nice dinner there. One thing I do want to point out was one of the most fascinating things to me. On the first day, you take a trip up to the top of a dormant volcano above it, where we have lunch for everyone. And on the top of that volcano is now flooded by water, so it's a giant lake on top of a volcano. I've never seen anything like that before.
I bet it's beautiful. Things. Yeah, I bet it's beautiful. Okay, so now let's talk about, I think, what is really important to investors, and that's that coconuts actually provide an income stream on this particular thing. So talk about how that happens.
That's correct. The coconut tree, once it's planted, takes about 4 years to start producing nuts. In about fourth year, you're going to receive about 50 nuts. Fifth year, about 100, and then next year, about 150. These are just conservative numbers. They could vary one way or the other. Once again, only projections. But from year 6 through the next 40, 50, 60 years, that tree just keeps producing. Now, I always like to use the comparison to an annuity, so it's something that's relatable to people.
Sure.
Well, annuity will be funded by a principal, and after a certain amount of time, starts paying you an income stream. Coconut works really the same way. However, there's a couple of big differences. Number one, there's no surrender fees if you have to do something with in this case, your property and make some changes, where if you had to pull money out before the annuity term was started, you'd have to pay a surrender fee on your money. The other things, annuities only have a certain amount of time that they would pay generally, unless you have a lifetime benefit rider or something added to it. A coconut tree will pay for 40, 50, 60 years. So it also creates generational wealth. So if you're looking at something that you want an income stream, but also to leave to somebody else when you're not on this earth anymore, that's a perfect vehicle for that as well.
Okay. And now, are all these coconut trees grown by you, or do you buy the nuts off of other private plantations?
No, these are all grown by us. We grow the coconut from a seed. We nurture it for the next, the first few years, and then after it starts taking hold, then the roots go deep enough and it draws water on its own. So we have irrigation set up to water the trees, because that's the most critical time, is the first couple of years of growth. And it's monitored constantly. We have people on the property 24/7, like I said. And it's interesting because the labor force down there are family-orientated people, and they take great pride in this. And we've created a situation for people that they have advantages now they never had, because the focus of the company is primarily on people, planet, and profits. So we're all about helping the people there. When we had some tremendous programs set up to help them. We're about growing something that's good for the planet, not destroying anything, but we're growing something biologically to help others, and also in the process of it, create a nice profit.
Well, I've pointed this out before with Alex, that 30, 40 years ago it was almost considered a hate crime to cut down a tree, but now we're realizing it's trees are renewable, and when you cut one down, it gives you an opportunity to plant a few at the same time. And responsible owners like you, that's, of course, you got to save, you got to do that, because that's your investment, right?
Exactly, and because it's such a new and adverse thing for most people to hear about, I always advise, just like I did, to do your homework. Go look at it. I actually looked to try and find all the negatives in it, and all I found was positive, and it just swayed me to get involved. In every conversation I have with people, once you get over the hurdles of the area, and it's so risky, or I don't know anything about it, once they learn about it, they realize this is truly the real deal, with excellent ROs that are averaging in the mid-teens. So it's just a win-win proposition.
Hey, we're with Craig Colley talking about timber, talking about coconuts. You can go to PreciousTimber.com to find out more information. Tell us though. I mean, you said you spent some time looking at kind of the negatives. There got to be some negatives involved with this, right?
Well, there's risk in any type of venture like this, but the risks are so minimal. The upside is so much greater than the downside that that's why I would say that the more I've learned about it, the more confident I became that this was something that the volatility was so low in comparison to other things. From my own personal experience, when 2008 hit, I took a major hit. And maybe I'm back now as part of my portfolio, but if I had trees planted in 2008, I wouldn't have lost any of that 6 to 8% growth in my portfolio. But now that's gone, and it's starting to come back. But I lost that. I may be back to where I started from, but for me, that's not good enough. So I found other things I can diversify into to help guard from that happening again. And as you know, a lot of people are predicting that's coming again. Well, one thing I'd like to mention real quickly is that we have some unbelievable not staged testimonials on our website, on the webinar apps tab to listen to, because it's better coming from our clients than from myself or the other owners of the company. So that's something available if people want to go to the PreciousTimber.com, look under webinars, and listen to the very first one. Here's some client testimonials that are just tell you the whole story from their perspective and their real clients.
And part of you touched on something that I think is important to point out. Your guys' your philosophy basically is that this type of an investment is not correlated to something like the S&P 500, and so when a 2008 type deal comes along, that you're gonna actually help your portfolio a little bit because of the non-correlation. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Craig, appreciate you coming by. Hey, I'm John Bam Ransom, filling in but not replacing the great Ray Lucia. He will join us in just a minute to answer some of the smartest money questions on radio or Biz TV. You can go ahead and send your questions into raylucia.com. That's raylucia.com. Email us your questions. We will get to them in the upcoming segment. We'll be back right after this.